You're there. You're working with Joe Pedicino. Of course, it is later in 1991 that you and Stan make an appearance in Global Wrestling Federation as it's getting going, and right as you're getting ready to do Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Were you already talking to Joe about Global at this time?
Well, Joe was talking to me about Global. Joe couldn't shut up. I love you, Joe, by the way, if you're listening out there. I'm not knocking you, but Joe Pedicino could not shut up about Global Wrestling at that point in time because I had been in Louisville for one of the joint tapings that they did when Joe was first getting involved, and they had done the Dallas deal and et cetera. And Jared had been running both territories, and I was in Louisville one time as 91 or whatever, and the guy was there, Olu Oliani or something like that.
Yeah. The
Nigerian guy with $30 million, and he looked like a Nigerian Louis Armstrong. And he had met this fucking girl. She was a girl wrestler, kind of, I think. A young black girl. I think her name was like Sweet Georgia Brown or something. And they were all, he was enamored of her. And Joe would call me regularly in Charlotte. And I kept saying to him, Joe, I don't it's too good to be true. A Nigerian wrestling fan with a letter of credit, which he faxed me to my home, and which I probably still have around here somewhere in the files, if the ink from the old fax machines hadn't degenerated at this point. He faxed the letter of credit from the bank that showed that Olu Oliani had the line of credit of $30 million at such and such bank. And I've never seen a line of credit for $30 million, especially in 1990, 91. So it looked close enough for rock and roll to me, but I assume that Joe Pedicino being in business and having attorneys and et cetera, and actually this being something he's telling people, would have checked all this out. And I don't know how and I guess they did do some checking, but anyway, point is, Joe was trying to get me and Stan to be a part of Global Wrestling when he had a budget, or thought he was going to have a budget. And we did a few shows as a favor to him down there when he was just getting started. But, then as it turned out, when they found out Olu didn't have any money, his budget was cut to the point where he couldn't even afford plane tickets, I don't think, at that point for a lot of guys. So we weren't going to drive to Dallas from Charlotte. One time I was doing it as a favor, more or less anyway, because we didn't want to go to Dallas. I think he was paying us $300 plus our trans or whatever, which was, in 1991, a lot of the top independent guys worked for $300. But then he said hotel too. And we get out and we go to the hotel, or we get out of the airport rather in a rental car, and we go to the hotel that he's told us to go to, and fuck me. Not only did he have us down for doubles, like we were going to split the room with people, but we walked in and looked at one of the rooms, and there was like one light with a table lamp with a bulb in the whole goddamn room. And and we said no, and we went out and got to La Quinta out at the airport and turned the receipts into him. But he said, my room was fine. Anyway, it was never a serious consideration that we were going to go there and be huge stars in this new organization, because to be quite honest, I never thought it was going to happen to begin with. It didn't fucking sniff right. And it's not that I didn't trust Joe Pedicino, who got hoodwinked, and it cost him a lot of cachet of his name value in the wrestling business, and people made fun of him, and he ended up spending a lot of his own money on trying to get the thing off the ground after we found out that old Louis didn't have the 30 million. But I had never considered, it wasn't like I was sitting there going, oh, I can't wait till this gets off the ground. I was like, we'll make some shots for Joe and do TV, and it's something to do because we're not working this year, and because I hadn't opened Knoxville yet.
Was Bill Eadie booking those tapings when you went down there?
I think we only went twice, I think, so I'm not sure at this point. My first time I ever met Bill, because we'd always been in different territories, was at the NAPTE convention when Joe and I went down to New Orleans, and he took Bonnie and I took my wife at the time, and we were trying to sell the LPWA. So it was the end of 90 or beginning of 91, and Bill and his wife went out to dinner with us that night. So that was fun, but that's the first time I met Bill, but I can't remember whether he's booking or not.